It began not with a bang, but with a perfectly manicured blade of grass, one precisely 3 millimeters too long. We thought we had found our sanctuary on Elmwood Lane, a cul-de-sac where the houses stood like gleaming, silent sentinels, and the only sound was the whisper of sprinklers on emerald lawns. It was a picture of suburban perfection, a diorama of the American dream, and we were eager to place our little family within its frame. What we didn't know was that the dream was a meticulously maintained facade, and the price of admission was our privacy, our peace, and very nearly our sanity. The first violation was a slip of pristine, heavy-stock paper tucked into our door jamb. It cited us for a non-compliant mailbox flora, noting that the petunias my wife, Sarah, had planted in the small bed around its post were not from the approved botanical palette. The fine was $50. We laughed it off, a bizarre initiation rite. We paid the fine and replaced the flowers with the suggested, anemic-looking begonias. But the slips kept coming. A trash can visible from the street for 17 minutes after pickup. A faint water spot on the driveway after I washed the car. A single, wilting pumpkin on our porch step 2 days after Halloween. Each infraction was delivered via the HOA Connect app, a sleek, invasive little program that became the bane of our existence. Its notifications would ping with the cheerful sound of a wind chime, a sound that soon sent a jolt of anxiety through our home. The board president, a man named Alistair Finch, was the architect of this quiet tyranny. He was a man who looked as if he'd been assembled from a kit for Kage, a successful community leader. Immaculate polo shirts, a smile that never reached his cold, calculating eyes, and a voice that was perpetually calm and reasonable. When I went to my first HOA meeting to appeal the constant fines, I walked into a world of chilling order. The meeting was held in a sterile community room, the board seated at a raised dais like a tribunal. My concerns about the excessive nature of the penalties were met with a wall of bylaw citations and condescending smiles from Finch. "Rules are the glue that bind a community, Mark," he told me, his tone paternalistic. "Without them, property values plummet and chaos creeps in. We're just protecting everyone's investment." It felt less like protection and more like predation. Our resistance, mild as it was, marked us. The fines escalated, becoming more absurd and personal. We were cited for excessive shadow casting, from a new patio umbrella and non-regulation familial noise emissions after our son's 7th birthday party. But then the stalking began. It started with small things. A garden gnome, a gift from Sarah's mother, vanished from our front yard. We found it shattered in our recycling bin. Our newspaper was often sodden, as if someone had dumped a glass of water on it before dawn. We installed a doorbell camera. The next morning, it was smeared with mud, the lens completely obscured. The app notification for the fine for a desoiled and unkempt entryway fixture arrived at 6:01 a.m. The digital harassment was relentless. The HOA app, which every homeowner was forced to use, began to feel like a panopticon. Anonymous reports flooded in through its system. Suspicious vehicle parked at 421 Elmwood Lane when my brother visited. Potential blight on property, accompanied by a photo of a single yellowing leaf on our birch tree, taken from an angle that suggested the photographer was standing deep within our property line. We felt watched, judged, and hunted in our own home. The pressure was fracturing us. Sarah, a painter, could no longer focus, her canvases remaining blank. I was spending hours drafting legalistic emails instead of playing with my son. Our home was no longer a haven. It was a gilded cage under constant surveillance. Driven by a mixture of fury and fear, I started digging. I began attending every HOA meeting, sitting silently in the back, taking notes. I noticed a pattern. Every time a house went up for sale, Finch or one of his inner circle on the board would make a lowball offer, well below market value. If it was refused, a mysterious campaign of violations would besiege the owners until they were desperate to sell. The Maple Court renovation project, a special assessment that had cost every homeowner thousands, had no visible results and no contractor receipts in the public minutes. The corruption was brazen, a quiet racket disguised as civic duty. The breaking point came when I decided to run for the board myself. I printed flyers, spoke to neighbors, and thought I had a chance. The night before the election, a dossier was anonymously emailed to every homeowner on the street. It was a masterpiece of character assassination. It contained photoshopped images of our house with peeling paint and a jungle-like lawn, fake financial documents suggesting I was facing bankruptcy, and even a fabricated police report alleging I had been involved in a disturbance. The source was untraceable, but the message was clear. Cross the regime, and we will destroy you. I lost the election in a landslide. The sense of powerlessness was absolute. We hired a lawyer, a weary-looking man who specialized in HOA disputes. He sighed more than he spoke. They have deep pockets, and the bylaws are almost always on their side, he told us. You're looking at a long, expensive battle with no guarantee of success. They'll bury you in legal fees. We were trapped. The final straw was a notice of lien against our property for unpaid fines and legal costs. Fines we were contesting, costs they had incurred to fight us. They were quite literally trying to steal our home. In a last, desperate act, I did something I never thought I would. Late one Tuesday, knowing the community office would be empty, I used a key I had seen Finch use during a meeting and let myself in. I wasn't looking for money or documents about the special assessment. I was looking for the source of the stalking. In a locked drawer of Finch's desk, I found it. It wasn't just a file on us. There were files on every family on Elmwood Lane. And tucked inside a sleek black case was a master control for a network of micro cameras. The system wasn't just on the streetlights and the clubhouse mail kiosk, as we'd feared. The schematics showed devices with tiny, wireless transmitters designed to look like rocks, birdhouses, and even the heads of the approved botanical palette sprinklers placed strategically to peer into backyards and through windows. They had been watching everything. The backyard barbecues, the kids playing in the pool, Sarah painting on the sun porch. Our most private moments had been their entertainment, their intelligence, their leverage. I didn't take anything. I simply took pictures with my phone and left, my heart hammering against my ribs. The evidence was undeniable, a criminal conspiracy woven into the very fabric of the neighborhood. But as I stood there in the dark, a colder, more terrifying realization dawned on me. The system I had discovered was too sophisticated, too extensive, to be the work of one man. The control console had multiple user profiles. The board treasurer, a sweet-looking grandmother named Carol, was listed. So was the head of the architectural committee. This wasn't just Alistair Finch's obsession. It was the community's. The true horror of Elmwood Lane wasn't a corrupt HOA president. It was that the sickness had become the norm, a shared secret that bound the neighbors together in a web of mutual surveillance and complicity. They weren't just enforcing the rules. They were feeding on the control. We moved out a month later, taking a massive financial loss just to be free. We never went to the police. Our lawyer advised against it, whispering that the town AS chief of police was Finch AS brother-in-law and a regular at their poker games. Sometimes I drive past Elmwood Lane. The lawns are still perfect, the houses silent. Alistair Finch still waves from his driveway, his smile benign. And I wonder as I look at the new family moving into our old house if they too will soon hear the cheerful chime of the app, and if they will ever realize that behind every perfectly trimmed hedge and approved color shutter, there are eyes, waiting for a single blade of grass to step out of line. The most unsettling thought, the one that keeps me up at night, is that the stalkers aren't hiding in the shadows. They're the ones who pass you the sugar, who collect your mail when you're away, who smile and ask about your kids by name. They are the neighborhood itself.